And then people started to cook, and people started to realize they were looking at their cookware for the first time carefully in maybe years and saying, wow, like the problems you had, you're going, there's got to be something better than this. And I haven't had time to think about and research it. Well, people started to think about it and researched it. And a lot of people for the first time ever discovered there's a world leading cookware industry right here in Australia, 100% made in Australia, employing Australians, exporting worldwide, all the top chefs using the stuff. It's been the best kept secret of the chefs and the gourmet cooks for 6 years now.
There's a great big campaign going on at the moment for Australian made, Australian owned, Australian designed, as we're coming out at the back of the COVID-19 lockdown and global supply chains have been interrupted. Retailing has essentially changed forever, depending on the industry that you are talking about. And I thought, let's talk this week about an Australian innovator that is doing some very, very cool stuff. Some might say boring, but I don't agree. It's technology that is picking a pain point and it's solving that pain point. And for me, that's always really the goal of technology. They're fresh off the back of a very successful Kickstarter, and they were on our radio show on the weekend and was the most clicked link ever of our newsletter that we sent out on Saturday. Solidteknics is the company. Mark Henry is from Solidteknics. How are you, Mark?
Hey, Charlie. Thanks for having me on. Is that right? The most clicked link ever on your show? And we're low tech.
Link ever. Yeah. So the way it works is we do a newsletter that goes out straight after the radio show. We do the East Coast radio show. We do the West Coast radio show because obviously different time zones, and the newsletter goes out after the West Coast, and it's the most clicked link ever for a Australian designed, owned, and made pan.
Yeah, and your show is, I know, very tech based, and some people would say that our things are low tech, and they are. When you look at them, they're simple, they're one piece, they just work, but they do work better than anything else. And but behind all that was years of research and development, patents. It's a real world first. No one's ever made pans like this before, and that's why we hold the patents. So there's a lot of technology, a lot of cutting edge, so to speak, manufacturing behind it all to make a simple product in the end.
The thing I wanted to talk to you about first and foremost was we all cook. We're cooking more now, right? And regardless of the growth of Uber Eats and home delivery and all that stuff, one of the things that, and I used to work in commercial kitchens in university to earn an income, but one of the things that we all can use to get more out of life, have a better life, I believe, is being able to cook ourselves. Your product fixes one of those pain points. Tell us about that pain point and how you fix it.
Oh, yeah. Well, one of the pain points is things sticking to your pans, right? The food sticks a lot of the time. And the way that was solved a few decades ago was to coat the pan a synthetic oil-based plastic, and it turns out that was a bad idea. If you followed the independent scientists and what they're saying, if you followed the lawsuits in the USA and the fines that have been levied against the biggest manufacturer of synthetic non-stick, for the contamination and all sorts of trouble there. But going back 3,000 years, everyone had wrought iron pans because they were hand beaten. They start with a lump of iron. It didn't work in the way it was cast. It was kind of susceptible to cracking, so they beat it out with a hammer and formed a pan. And that was the standard for 3,000 years. Then we kind of forgot about that with stainless steel and aluminium, and then coated cookware to help with the non-stick. Now people have been rapidly getting back to iron pans because they've figured out that the old wisdom was the best wisdom. Just by heating the pan with good quality oils and heating it up hot enough that it smokes, that's seasoning the pan. You don't want to cook with the smoke, but you want to season the pan with the smoke. And then more cooking, your natural non-stick from seasoning, just like a wok or a cast iron pan or a French steel pan, that natural seasoning actually gets better over time. So your non-stick improves over the years. And that's the exact opposite to the modern disposable synthetic non-sticks that we all know. If we buy one, within, if you're lucky, 2 years, if you really baby it, 5 years, you'll be throwing that in the landfill. They're not recyclable, and they're all imported. We're the only production manufacturer in Australia, and our pans will never go in the landfill. You just keep on seasoning them. They stay non-stick, and then our durability is literally multi-generations. They're indestructible.
So let's look at that for a sec, because I've cooked with woks, and I've cooked with the non-stick pans. And I'm not going to name brands or anything, but I've got a non-stick pan. And I said on the radio show on Saturday that I absolutely hate it. I hate it because I've got to heat it to this temperature, and I have to season it. I have to put the oil onto it and rub it into it, and then I have to drop the temperature down. And this is just to make pancakes, right? You just want to, really, you just want to pour the pancake mixture in and go, start cooking. But we can't do that.
Yeah.
So, but I've cooked with woks as well. And so that you're saying the way I cook with the wok, with the putting the oil in at the end, cleaning it and seasoning it at the end by heating it up till it smokes, and then wiping that oil in properly. That's what I've got to do with your pans, your regular wrought iron pans as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. And it's really the same thing. I mean, our iron pans are a lot like carbon steel pans or cast iron pans, bare cast iron. So you do need to season them. Now, that's with our iron pans, and it's way easier than it looks, and it's been done for 3,000 years. We like to joke, hey, don't stress about it. It's been done for 3,000 years, and even before the internet came along, we've got videos online and forums where people talk about and help each other out, and it's great. But people forget this was done for 3,000 years. We didn't invent seasoning, and it's done all over the world, hundreds and hundreds of millions of people. But then we also make stainless steel, wrought stainless steel, solid, and that's another world first. That's patented because no one's managed to make a wrought one-piece stainless steel pan ever before. And the amateur engineers will say, no, that's not possible. Stainless steel doesn't conduct. You've got to laminate it. You've got to make it clad with aluminium and different layers to make it conduct. But in reality, if you choose the right type of stainless steel and you forge it solid, then it can be more conductive than the clad layer stuff that has rivets and doesn't last forever.
We'll be right back after this break. Today we're talking with Mark Henry from Solidteknics, a Australian-based manufacturer, developer, patent owner, creator of a range of cool technologies for the kitchen. At the moment, they've got a very successful pan or skillet that they have in the market, and it's a very interesting time to be making stuff. Mark, the recent Kickstarter that you did, very successful for you. Tell me about that.
Yes, Charlie. Wow, it was really a lifesaver for us. We were worried about the whole pandemic and our retailers closing up. So it got really popular because we went back to the drawing board and re-engineered our Australian-made cookware to radically cut costs, but maintain all the quality that they were already famous for with chefs and gourmet cooks. And so we managed to achieve a price of $49 and $59 for Australian made with Australian iron, employing Australians. So that people responded and got behind us, and we're really grateful for that, because we were thinking we were in a bit of trouble. We cut all our costs, and then with the success of this Kickstarter, it looks like we'll make it, and we'll be here post pandemic, so to speak, to keep on growing for Australia and inspire other Australian manufacturers, we hope. Do you mind if I show one that I prepared earlier, Charlie?
I'd love it if you did.
So that's our stainless steel, wrought stainless steel in one piece. You'll see that the lid is actually not just a lid, it's also a high performance skillet in its own right, flat skillet.
Wow.
And we stamp the
and
pride
is
on
this
the
the
bottom.
one that you did? on the Kickstarter? Is this because the Kickstarter you just finished was 677,000 pledged against a target of 20,000.
Yeah, it was, and the dollars are great. That'll help us survive. We were quite worried about our retailers all shutting down in the early weeks of the crisis. Retailers shut, people stopped buying, and it was a wait and see very much then. And we prepared for the worst. We were batting down the hatches. We cut all our costs. We just spent nothing ourselves as a company, waiting to see if we could survive this. And then people started to cook, and people started to realize they were looking at their cookware for the first time carefully in maybe years and saying, wow, like the problems you had, you're going, there's got to be something better than this. And I haven't had time to think about and research it. Well, people started to think about it and researched it. And a lot of people, for the first time ever, discovered there's a world-leading cookware industry right here in Australia. 100% made in Australia, employing Australians, exporting worldwide, all the top chefs using the stuff. It's been the best kept secret of the chefs and the gourmet cooks for 6 years now. So suddenly the public found out about that, and they started to click through and order. So now we're surviving, we're making it. And we happen to, now the exact pan that was on the Kickstarter, sorry, in a long way around to answer your question, Charlie, is this one here. We call it the Lightning pan, and this is pure iron, Australian iron, wrought in Sydney with our patented method in one solid piece. So there's no rivets, there's no joins, there's no welds, and that's why it's indestructible, because wrought iron can't be cracked like cast iron. And so what happens is it is literally indestructible. And now our warranty...
Now, I'm going to talk to you about warranties and stuff in a sec, but on the Kickstarter, I saw that there was it looked like there was two main sort of varieties. There was like one that you season yourself, and there was one that's something about beeswax or something like that. Tell me about that second one, because that sounded really interesting as well.
Yeah, well, the one I just showed you, that's completely raw. So that came with just an oil coating to stop it from rusting, because iron will rust pretty quick. But the other option we give is pre-seasoned. And so this is what it looks when it's pre-seasoned at the factory. So it's got a texture. It's heated with oil. It's not a tricky coating. It's not synthetic. It's just heated with oil and at high temperature, and so that makes it rust resistant, and that gets your seasoning started. So it's much easier for beginners, people new to iron, to choose this, and it's called our satin range because of the satin finish. But that's already pre-seasoned, so it's an easy way to get started versus the raw, which is a little more difficult for beginners. So,
and is there something around the cleaning as well of the two different ones? Because I think you're saying on the radio show that you got to be careful with the cleaning, or you clean it a particular way.
Yeah, and really the principle is just like a wok or a cast iron pan. You want to definitely get the food off, and so hot water and a brush normally gets all the food off. If that doesn't get everything off, scrape it. Don't worry about metal. You can use metal, anything. But as long as you return it to smooth, but keep... Now that's what it looks like when it's been well seasoned, and it feels like a non-stick pan. But that's pure iron seasoned with natural, non-toxic, converted oil. Your cooking oil converts to something non-toxic and hard. So that's what you want. Get the food off. But leave the black stuff on, because that's your converted seasoning, and that's the stuff that's non-stick and non-toxic. The only known non-toxic non-stick in existence is non-stick you can build yourself at home on iron.
Very, very interesting. So you're going to also, I understand, be doing another Kickstarter, and I don't know whether you want to talk about this or not, but I heard about it, and I'm going to make you talk about it, Mark. Because I think one of the things
skills.
Well, one of the things that people were disappointed about on the newsletter, and some of them, because some of them didn't get to your original Kickstarter fast enough to take advantage of it. But obviously that's going to be okay because you're going to be doing another one. Tell us about that.
Yeah, just quietly between us, Charlie, you and I, in 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to do exactly the same process again. Now, we do this often because every time we launch a new product, it's hugely expensive for us. We've got to pay for all the tooling. We've got to make the actual production run. So it's a massive investment, and particularly when you're doing it in Australia, it's serious. So crowdfunding, Kickstarter is just crowdfunding. A lot of people get excited about what you're doing and get behind it and pledge their money. Then at the end of the campaign, after a month or so, their credit card gets billed, and then we manufacture and then we ship. Well, we've done that 24 times. That Kickstarter that you just saw, the Lightning, was our 24th. So our 25th, in a few weeks' time, will be, just quietly, for other versions of those Lightning pans that were so successful in the last Kickstarter. And they were successful because we worked really hard to cut our manufacturing costs, and we launched that 21 centimeter for the people who got in quick. The early bird special was $49 for that pan made in Australia by Australians with Australian iron. Now, it went to $59 after the early bird. That's still a bargain, under the price of most quality imports, and way more durable and healthier and all those good things. So anyway, the new Kickstarter coming up, same process, different sizes in pans, but in the same Lightning iron range.
It is very good what you're doing, Mark. It's encouraging to see Australian development, innovation, manufacturing, those kinds of things going on, especially during this time. It's hard. It is hard, and we're creating our own product here. Very different, of course, but we are on that first line of understanding what it is that your challenges are. But look, well done to you, and look, we're glad to be able to support you. Keep doing it, and look, I'm about to be able to becoming a customer as well, which I'm very excited about for my own cooking, and my kids want to use one as well. We're talking about this on Sunday as we were making pancakes again with our current ridiculous pan that we've got. So Solidteknics is the name of the company. Mark Henry is from Solidteknics. We will let everybody know about your next Kickstarter. Keep doing what you're doing. Best of luck to you, and thanks for coming on this morning.
Great. Thanks, Charlie. Thanks for having me. Much appreciated.